Welcome to LCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication, the podcast that celebrates the incredible individuals who have shaped the heart and soul of the Lawrence County Community Action Partnership.
Each episode, we'll dive deep into the stories of those who have devoted their careers to making a difference, not just in our organization, but in the lives of the people we serve every day.
We'll uncover their journeys, explore the moments that inspired them, and highlight the lasting impact of their commitment to LCAP's mission.
So whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply celebrate the amazing people who make LCAP what it is, thank you for joining us.
This is LCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication.
Let's get started with today's guest.
Welcome back for another week of LCAP Legacy, Decades of Dedication. And of course, in the studio, I have my wonderful co-host with me today.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone.
And our special guest for this week is James Dotson, and he is the General Manager for Lawrence County SportsNet. So, James, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Glad we can make this happen here in the craziness of our playoff times.
Yes, we definitely appreciate you coming in because we know you work so diligently covering the different teams throughout the year. So let's go ahead and dive right on in at the beginning of your journey here.
Yeah, so this is the fourth year of Lawrence County SportsNet here, powered by LCAP. We are probably the newest, if not the newest, one of the newest programs through LCAP. But 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago officially, right in the heart of the pandemic, I had been working for the Trib Live High School Sports Network, which I still do on a part-time basis, doing broadcasts in the area. And when the pandemic happened, obviously everybody was trying to find ways to get broadcasts happening. And being already connected with Trib worked really well, but I also just found out that my wife and I were expecting our first kid and everything else going on with the pandemic. I didn't want to be traveling a lot. So it's like, how can we get games in the county? And basically, with the help of a couple local sponsors, we created that year a Lawrence County Game of the Week through Trib Live. And then, no joke, just happened to run into Jim Ferris after one of the games, hanging out after one of the ball games. I had known Tom Scott, the CEO here. I'd known him before, but basically got reintroduced and told him that, our dream was to eventually create a actual Lawrence County network, that we're running this through Trib right now, but we'd like to have our own thing. And just one thing led to another, and basically hey, when this season ends, let's talk and see if we can make this happen. And at the end of that season, we did. LCAP actually started it that winter, sponsored a couple of the state championship games when I believe it was Mohawk Girls that year made it to the state championships, and I think Newcastle Boys that year did as well. They sponsored broadcasts for us to be able to do that, and now it's the full Lawrence County SportsNet here the following year, now in year number 4, being powered by LCAP with this LCSportsNet.
Nice. And did you always have a passion for sports and sports media?
I always had a passion for sports, yes. Sports media actually came much, much later. So my day job is as a high school math teacher. I graduated from Penn State with degrees in mathematics and education. Nothing with media. I didn't even take any media classes up at Penn State. But what did happen when I was up there at college, a buddy of mine ran just a for fun sports podcast. He was talking, a lot of local people in the area, what are they doing now type thing. And they decided they want to do an episode just on people from Lawrence County and Mercer and Beaver County that were currently at Penn State. So I said, hey, why don't we call Dotson? I'm sure he knows some things. Okay, sure. Talked for about an hour and like, wow, that was a lot of fun. That was awesome. So then they brought me on last second to talk about something the next week, and then it turned into a fantasy podcast, basically. A lot of fantasy sports, March Madness, fantasy football especially. And after I graduated from college, I ended up getting a message through Facebook from Mark Schaas, who was the local radio announcer here in Lawrence County for WJST, WKST, and also had worked for Trib Live. And he basically said, hey, thanks, love your stuff. You actually just won me my second straight championship, and I give it all to you guys. Love the way you sound. Have you ever considered doing sports broadcasting, like, live on the radio type thing? And I said, never had considered it, but I will. So he said, yeah, I need somebody for the first week of the year, because the guy he normally works with, Lee Moan, who is now one of our workers here with LCAP as well, he basically had to fill in for somebody who was filling in for something else. So I went and did a game that first week of the year. Long story short, there were 4 other games Lee couldn't come to that year, so I did 4 or 5 games that season, just working under Mark Schaas, and he basically said, you need to apply with Triple Live because you'll get a job immediately. And I did, and I've been doing it ever since. I believe this is now 10 years as a full-time broadcaster. And I say full-time because it's really my side job, but 10 years of full-time doing, multiple games a week, multiple sports, everything from football to hockey to baseball, softball to competitive cheerleading. I've done it all.
Nice.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Very. Speaking of Mark Schaas, can we talk a little bit about his golf outing that we have coming up?
Absolutely. June 28th. So one of the things in starting Lawrence County SportsNet, one of the goals was this was his dream. He always wanted to have a Lawrence County network. We had the radio stations, and he worked really hard to keep those going. He probably single-handedly kept them going as long as he did because he'd be the one going out door to door and literally knocking on doors to get enough sponsorships to be able to get a Lawrence County Game of the Week on the local radio station. So in trying to keep up with that as everything was turning more digital, we knew that was always a big part of his goal was to have a Lawrence County network. And so we're glad to keep that tradition. If you listen to our intro before every broadcast, you still and will always hear his voice at the end of it saying the gold ball heading back to Newcastle or heading home to Newcastle. That was his saying when Newcastle won the state championship about 15 years ago now. Unfortunately, he died in a car crash in 2017, 2018 before we could get this network ever up and running. But he will forever be a part of it because he is really the reason why this has happened. So in trying to keep his memory going, mentioned it being on every broadcast that we're ever going to do. One of the other goals we wanted to do was we wanted to keep the growth of sports media, especially in the area, in creating a scholarship in his name. That was a goal I had from day one. It took us a few years to really kind of, get other things figured out first, but started this year talking with you wonderful ladies here and Vanessa as well, getting a chance to put that all together and actually get into a scholarship fund. Any student in Lawrence County who is going on to basically anything in a sports world, sports media preferred, but sports management, any kind of digital media is eligible to apply. We'll give out scholarship or scholarships at the end of the year. And the golf outing on June 28th is to help raise money for that scholarship fund. So it's going to be at Castle Hills, 2 o'clock on June 28th. If you're interested, send us an email, lcsportsnet@lccap.org would be the easiest. We'll get all the information out to the right people, or message me Lee Moan. He's the one who he started working with Shazi back in 2004, I think it was, when he began with them. So he's worked with them and known Mark for longer than any of us really in the broadcasting realm. But we owe LC Sportsnet to Mark Schaas because the three main broadcasters that we brought on were myself, who Mark brought on, Lee Moan, who worked with him forever, and Tim Continenza, who is from Ohio. But when Mark had his stroke in 2015, 2016, it was Tim who took over for him, and that's how we all got connected. And the three of us, especially, are the ones who keep the broadcasting side of things going.
So, James, how does typical game days look for you? Like when you're getting ready to broadcast?
Chaotic, typically, is the one word I would say. Luckily, if we're in Lawrence County doing games within the county, all the schools are so hospitable to us. They know us. They know what we need, know what's going on. Like, I don't even have to say anything like, hey, we're coming tonight. Perfect. We figured you might be. Rather than some schools, you have to call 5 different times and be like, hey, we're coming. Can we set us up? Can you set us up? But basically, we try to get there typically between an hour and a half before game time. Especially like basketball, because there's a JV game. We try to get there before the JV game to start setting things up. And the equipment that we have, I mean, it looks like we're moving into the place sometimes, because you have one case that has all of our audio equipment, a soundboard, mics, and headsets like we got here, and then a full video equipment that has a switcher that we can switch between 2 and 3 cameras depending on the style of game we have. And then computer to run it all, and of course all the wires. I mean, the wires that we have makes this look extremely tame here in front of us. But and our typical broadcast has 2 broadcasters, a producer, and at least 1 camera person. Again, depending if we have a multiple camera style game, especially football, we'll have at least 2, sometimes 3 cameras working. So we have a good 4 or 5 person crew for most of our broadcasts. In the spring, tougher to do, especially because games are going on like right after a school. So a lot of our guys, being part-time workers, are still at work. Luckily, we have a couple of our producers who are able to go early. A couple of our broadcasters who are retired, lucky them. That this is just a part-time gig to get a little more retirement money, so they can get there early. But spring becomes the chaos of everything. But in the end, we get there, we get things set up, we find out what's not working properly because there's always some glitch that happens, and we rectify it, and we are always on air by the time the game begins, one way or another. We're going to get on the air when tip-off happens.
And if I've learned anything, is when it comes to technical problems, if anything is going to arise, it's going to arise right before the game even starts. So just having those skills of knowing what to do in that moment is very important. So I did want to ask you, you kind of stumbled on into this career. It's not exactly what you wanted to be in, but if you could give advice to someone who is looking to get into broadcasting or anything in media, what advice would you give them?
Basically the same thing that I had when we started. It was keep an open mind. Like, I never thought I would want to do this, and I still to this day cannot believe how much fun I have going to a game on a Friday night. That was kind of it too. It's like, I'm probably going to go, I like sports, obviously. I'm going to go to a game on a Friday night more often than not anyway. So instead of paying $5 to get into the game, I'm getting paid to go and cover the game. So that was literally a silly thought at the beginning, but in the end, like, that's basically what it is. I cannot believe how much fun it has been to do it. If you keep an open mind too, everybody wants to do football. Everybody wants to do basketball. Show that you're willing to learn a new sport. Like, you want to try out volleyball. You want to try out soccer. You want to give it a try. I played baseball, but I don't know as much about softball. Who cares? Go give it a try. I mentioned the competitive spirit championships. We've done that now, being partnered with NFHS Network. We've been hired to produce the WPIL championships for the competitive cheerleading in the last 2 years. Before that, I'd done it with Trib Live and formerly MSA for the 6 years prior. That came up on a schedule of mine. I was scheduled to do a basketball game on Tuesday. Hey, I got 2 games this week. I'm doing one on Friday, and I'm doing something called the Competitive Spirit Championships on Saturday. I have no idea what that is, but I found out, okay, it's the cheerleading championships. I actually knew Laurel's head coach at that time, so I called her to say, hey, just give me a couple things to talk about. Give me a couple of, cheerleading vocabulary. So I see there's a pyramid versus a stunt. What's the difference? 2 hours later, I had 5 pages of notes, and when we get to there on broadcast day, our head broadcaster's like, I know none of us really know a whole lot about this. We're just going to go and do what we can. I just went, spread my 5 pieces of paper out in front and said, I got this, guys, don't worry. So, and now they have me back every year doing that because I'm the one who took the initiative to figure out about this stuff, and now the coaches recognize me when we go back every year. So, cheerleading, never ever in my mind would I consider doing that, but now I'm the one who's reaching out to make sure it gets broadcast every year.
Because it is very important in this community. There's so many competitions and cheerleaders, and it's a really important sport. People put so much time and effort into it, so it's important that they get as much exposure as any other sport.
Right. Well, and especially at Laurel and Neshannock, who have won district and state gold over the last 4 or 5 years. Absolutely, they should be recognized and put out there as much as possible. They were just, before I called, they were going to just go basically put up a camera and have the camera going the whole time. So no, we're not having that. So we got a full broadcast crew interviewing all the teams and everything. So and it all began with a phone call to a local coach that was supposed to last 5 minutes and went 2 hours.
Yeah, because those girls, they go every night after school and they practice till late at night, 4 or 5 days a week on the weekends.
Because that's the only time you can get gym time sometimes after everything else.
Yeah. So I'm happy that you do that. That's wonderful. And you know what else, too, I want to mention? Our SportsNet, so our LCAP SportsNet, too, for people who cannot get out of their home, for people who live far away, they're able to tune in and to rewind and watch the different games. So I think that's very special, too. My aunt lives in Florida. And she was watching one day. My niece plays for Neshannock. She's on the volleyball team and the basketball team. And she said, I felt like I was just right there at the game with you guys. So I thought that was really special because she's not able to be here, throughout the different seasons that my niece Lily plays. So
and that's part of the fun too. Is I've actually had a coach come up to me and say, hey, are you guys doing the game next week? I said, we're trying to. We need to make sure. It's like, good. I don't want my dad driving out, and he's 95 years old. I don't want him driving in the snow, or he hasn't been feeling well. He wants to watch the game. Like, I get it completely. And actually, I'm going to mess this up, but randomly I saw that we had a for a football playoff game. We had a few views. It was somewhere in the Caribbean. I forget where it was. Like, how did you just stumble upon Mohawk football game in the Caribbean? I got a message a week later saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know, thank you so much. We were tuning in from the Caribbean on our cruise, and we're coming back early to make sure we can get to, because it might be our son's final game. It's like,
Aww.
well, now I know where that came from. So no, we've had that. We had somebody message me that he was on a business trip in Bangkok, and it was like 3 a.m, and he was just wide awake watching the game at that point. I mean, that's the beauty of internet, especially broadcast. You literally can watch anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And you are talking about the importance of people being able to tune in from other places, but it's also important the exposure that you're giving our athletes in this area. So do you want to just talk about like just how important that is?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Trib Live is based out of Pittsburgh. Like, naturally, they're going to have the Pittsburgh teams. The beauty of it with me working for them being as far north as I am, living in Lawrence County, if there is a decent Lawrence County game, he's sending me there because I don't have to drive very far. Somebody else in Pittsburgh would have to, and they'd have to, be upset about it. But guess what? Every time someone would come up and do a game with us, they'd see, these stands are packed. Like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. This is great. Like, that's how it always is here. But we're right smack dab between Pittsburgh and Erie. Barely get any coverage from Pittsburgh. Don't get any coverage from Erie. It's understandable. We need to have somebody to be able to help promote these kids in the area, and that's why the radio station was so important to Shazi, and getting this network going to its full extent was so important to us.
Do you remember your first time on the air and what your experience was like?
1,000% I do. That first game I did with Mark, it was a football game. It was at Southside Beaver. It was Neshannock against Southside. And I remember it vividly, too, because the still all-time leading passer in Neshannock history, Frank Antuano, that was his first game as a starting quarterback. And I actually ran into him a couple of years ago, and I said, I have a trivia question for you. Who caught the first pass for Neshannock in that game in your first start? The answer is Frank Antuano caught it. He lined up for one play early in that first as a receiver, and he caught a pass from Rocco Fazio. And it's like, I don't even remember that. So it is. It's funny, the little things that you remember, and many times, as a broadcaster, we always go back and listen because we want to get better. I just randomly, earlier this year, I put on that first game to hear me and Shaw's on that broadcast, just to hear, oh my, how different that was 8, 9, 10 years ago now. And yeah, it's fun to go back and listen to that sort of thing. So you remember very vividly a good number of the broadcasts that you do, and I've done probably 700, I would say, at this point.
What would you say is the most memorable moment that you've had broadcasting?
That's tough. So let me preface this by saying a couple of weeks ago, one of our producers, Matthew Flannery, and we were invited up to Penn State to talk at their sports business club to talk about, because he also does stuff as a part-time owner of a roller hockey broadcasting group. So we had a lot of fun stories to be able to share. But the one story I shared with them, and I'll share with you guys, was right after the pandemic. We were broadcasting game, and at that point, you only had so many people who were allowed in the stands. And with that, like, they had all this rotation. A bunch of the players, a few I knew in particular, like, mom was going to be in the stands for the first half, dad for the second half. Like, you had to go through this whole process when it was those limited numbers. Second play of the game, a player gets a compound fracture on the field. Serious injury. The mother was watching our broadcast from the parking lot, because she was the one coming in for the second half. We're trying to figure out who was injured on the field. We don't know. She's watching our broadcast. She's looking at the numbers that have come off of the field to the sideline, and she knows exactly that, no, it's my son. Just hearing that story afterwards and knowing that, obviously you don't want that to be a big memory, but like, those are the things that you unfortunately remember, those bad parts of it. Fast forward 4 years later, the exact same teams, Laurel against Neshannock. The exact same thing happens. A kid has a compound fracture of a leg on the field at the end of a game. It feels like deja vu. It was so, again, heartbreaking. All of a sudden, we see a freshman not involved with the play sprint off the field to the locker room, and we notice it. Like, what's that about? He comes back onto the field as they're wheeling the kid into the ambulance. And I give a huge shout out to Peyton Weaver, because he is as hard-nosed of a kid. I actually coached him before that, so I know he's a hard-nosed kid. We joked that I bet they went and got his cell phone out of the locker room because he's going to want to watch the rest of the game from the helicopter. No joke, I got a text message from somebody 10 minutes later saying, I heard what you said. Yes, he's watching on the helicopter.
Aw.
Yeah. And by the way, he's now a coach at Newcastle. So, I mean, just it's a full circle kind of thing. We talked about it before one of the games this year. So, I remember that. Yep. I remember watching it. I honestly don't remember anything about the game because I was pretty drugged up. But I do remember getting the cell phone and watching it while I was in the helicopter.
And it's so nice for you, too, to see players and then how they become, like you said, coaches and how they progress through the years and, learning more about their families and all the different sports that they play. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the one downside of seeing that is I've been doing this long enough that now I'm seeing, older brothers and older sisters, now younger brothers and younger sisters. If I accidentally call Peyton Newman, Hunter Newman one more time, or today, as we're recording this, the track championship's going on, and I said younger instead of younger brother Tyler Fuchs, I said Aiden Fuchs on one of our posts, and that's where it gets a little tricky,
Yeah.
and I apologize for the 10,000 times in advance that'll happen again. But yeah, shout out to all those great families, and yeah, especially coming back and becoming coaches is also
Pretty
a fun way to come around to it.
And, you did mention towards the beginning of the episode that, SportsNet was basically Mark Schaas' dream. So being able to have this come into fruition, what is it like for you knowing that you were able to live out his dream and then also pass it on to the next generations of sports media professionals?
Well, and that's it right there, is being able to pass it on. I mean, we're trying to provide something for all the kids in the area who don't get the exposure. I know kids have told us that, some of the video that they've taken from, they have their own huddle film and, game changer film that they take their highlight reels from. But then they go onto our YouTube page and they get it with, somebody making the call of that great play sort of thing. That's the kind of legacy that matters more than anything is, obviously building what Shazi started all those years ago, but to be able to continue it for them. Maybe they get noticed from some random crazy play or from highlight that they use. Heck, we had a play a couple years ago in volleyball that was actually nominated for the USA Today Play of the Year that came from one of our broadcasts. So
Wow.
The fact that we were able to get that, and that was actually first noticed by a company in California. They called, asked for permission to do it. They ran it on their show, and then a couple of weeks later, we see USA Today has tagged us as it being the play of the month and nominated for Play of the Year.
That's really cool.
Well, when you have a last point of a volleyball match to take down a formerly undefeated team and a player makes a save and literally dives into our broadcast table, under the broadcast table, play is still going on. She finally gets disentangled from our cords, gets back out there, and they end up winning the point to win the match. Yeah, it was worth
Yeah.
it was worth a National Play of the Year nomination, no question.
Yeah, it's well deserved.
And then just speaking of, legacy, obviously the theme of this podcast is legacy. And my next question to you is, what legacy would you like to leave once you are done with, LCAP and SportsNet? What are you hoping to leave?
Well, first, thank you guys for having me on for a legacy podcast. Again, we're a program that's only 4 years in the making, but we're hoping that this is the start of a big legacy. We said it right at the very first broadcast we did with LCAP of our goal was that first year 100 broadcasts of sporting events. And I remember my colleague Lee Moan looking at me basically like, are you crazy? 100 broadcasts in a year? Are you crazy? We hit 120 that first year. Our playoff broadcast this week will be numbers 151 and 152 and so on already for this sports season with the spring playoffs still going. So as far as the legacy that I think we've already begun is the fact that, hey, we're a small county, but we are the county of champions. The year that we started, all 8 schools won a district championship that year. We do. Our kids bring gold home to Lawrence County. We want to be there to cover it and give them the coverage that they fully deserve. And if the legacy is that they now have a chance to be able to go back and someday show their kids of a video highlight of them making a diving catch in the outfield or them running for the 90-yard touchdown, that's all the legacy that anyone should ever need.
Looking to the future, how can you see SportsNet evolving within the next 5 years?
Well, we're already kind of in the works of that. We're hoping to be able to get even more. So basically, right now you can watch our broadcasts on YouTube. You can watch them. I got them on Facebook Live. on Twitter, X, the Xbox, whatever the heck you want to call it now. So many different ways to watch it. The NFHS network. We simulcast everything to Trib Live still. We're hoping to potentially get connections to have some of our games potentially put on the Westminster Cable network. There's some more hoops to jump through to officially make that happen, but those sort of things are definitely in the works to be able to expand. Again, we just want people to be able to watch as many different ways as they can, whether you're outside the country or whether you're watching on the old Channel 10. We want our kids to be able to be seen. So that's one of the goals. It's very possible we could look to, we already have partnered with the up north of us in Mercer County Radio. We share Wilmington with Mercer County. Anytime there's a big Mercer County game featuring Wilmington, they're calling us and asking if we would help and provide some of the camera work to do the video to go with their great radio station up there. But Bob Greenberg and Mark Schaas do such an awesome job, and they keep calling us to do the video aspect for it. So we're potentially going to have more connections with Mercer County. Similarly, maybe down in Beaver County, there's some possibilities of doing some Beaver County games working with them. And more than anything, too, it's just trying to create, this broad network. Obviously, we're centered and focused on Lawrence County first, but there are games here in the playoffs that we're helping broadcast a game for, say, Westmoreland County or Greene County because they don't have enough guys available. We're already at this site for game 1. Hey, we'll stay and do game 2 for you. They do the same thing for us. That allows us to expand. I got a random message on Twitter from somebody from the center of the state that says, hey, my broadcast stuff is done. I love what you guys do. If you ever need somebody when you've got games in the center of the state, give me a call. I mean, that's kind of the networking, I think, that's been really cool to see as well. So in fact, of growing the network, I mean, we could technically grow it into a tri-county or even bigger if we wanted to. But we want to focus right now, especially on our Lawrence County kids, because that's what got us here in the beginning as a county of champions.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Tom would love to hear us in a tri-county. So.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up all the personal questions and make our way to the quick fire round. And how that works is we're going to ask you a series of questions and you're just going to respond by answering with the first thing that comes to your mind. So Kim and Amber, if you guys want to go ahead and take that away.
Sure thing. So James, what song really puts you in a good mood? What's your favorite go-to song just to relieve stress and just to be happy about?
It's going to sound really dumb, but there's a reason for it. It's We Built This City on Rock and Roll. And
that's a good one.
And it'll never be a song that I intentionally put on, though. So there's a long story. When I was in middle school, I was part of a competition called the Future City Competition. And at the Future City Competition, you had to build a city from scratch using SimCity and then making a full-size model of it. And when that happened, it was at the competition, they kept playing We Built This City over and over and over as we were waiting for awards. And then finally it stopped and we were like, okay, we're ready. We're going to get the awards now. Ready? And then We Built This City. And then it came, everybody groaned. So anytime I hear that song, it puts me in a good mood because I remember that just random fun memory.
That's pretty cool. You have a good singing voice.
Don't tell my wife.
So if you could broadcast any sporting event anywhere in the world, what would it be?
1,000,000% the Indianapolis 500. My family, my dad used to work across from the track at Indianapolis. He and a coworker would walk across the entire month of May for their lunch break, walk into the track, watch the cars go around. They decided finally, hey, let's go to a race. And they did. They brought their families that year. This Memorial Day weekend is our family's 50th consecutive time going to the Indy 500. I would 1,000,000% any IndyCar broadcast, but especially the Indy 500, without question.
That would be cool.
Wow. And if you were stuck on a desert island, just like Gilligan, what 3 snacks would you bring with you?
What 3 snacks would I bring? Ooh, that's all right. Some form of chocolate. I'll go straight up and let's go Reese's chocolate. I will say Skittles. Skittles are very much a guilty pleasure, and sour gummy worms.
Lots of nutrition.
Oh, absolutely.
Lots of sugar.
Hey, you said snack. I definitely went with snack. That's for sure.
Sugary snacks.
So what is your favorite sport?
My favorite sport to play was always baseball. So I love calling a baseball game, especially I've had a lot of former coaches or former players who have come and done broadcasts with me. You talked about former players now as coaches, but Richie Saragnese has been a state champion baseball player. He's done baseball games with me. Wilmington's former coach, James Jeremitas, doing games with me. I love being able to talk X's and O's, and that's the game I for sure think I can talk about the best. but I've actually enjoyed volleyball as my most favorite because there's just so many momentum swings in a volleyball match compared to any other sport. That's probably one of my surprisingly most favorite ones to do. But because of the strategy and me knowing the game so well, baseball is still my top.
I like volleyball too. Like I said, my niece Lily plays for Neshannock, and I just like watching all the girls. They're pretty amazing. Yeah, it's very hard sport. Really,
Any sport that I could not do, makes it enjoyable for me.
Yes, me too. And then we always talk like at the end of our show about what do you enjoy like for food? Where do you like to go? We have so many great different restaurants here in Lawrence County, so we always like to ask everybody what their favorite restaurant is, what their favorite food they enjoy.
I've always been a big fan of chicken wings. So like, it's going to sound stupid, but at one point, like I was trying to find, hey, can I find this place has a wing night on Monday and then this one on Tuesday and this one, and literally have a wing week, not a wing night. I never actually pulled that off, but no, chicken wings are always up there at the top in terms of a going out food. I'm pretty boring in that regard, that I know what I like and I stick with it. My wife tries to get us the craziest HelloFresh meals ever of something different out there, and the one that we got was a tagine, which as we were cooking it the first night we made it, we both are thinking, okay, there's a frozen pizza out there, right? Because we're going to need it. We've ordered it 7 more times since because it's been that good. So wow. I need to be more adventurous because it's proven to work out well, but give me the chicken wing, baby.
And did you play, I think you mentioned about baseball. What sports did you play in high school and college?
I played baseball throughout. I didn't play anything in college. I did consider trying to walk on at Penn State. It would have been a very long shot, but I ended up tearing a cartilage in my shoulder, so that kind of took away any dream of that happening at that point. But I played basketball all the way growing up through, I think, 10th grade is when I stopped and stuck fully with baseball. But I was also a member of the Neshannock Marching Band. That was the drum major my junior and senior year at Neshannock. So one of the events that we do every year is the Lawrence County Band Festival, and that's one that for sure, like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing that because Band Festival, you talk about the cheerleaders not getting nearly enough of the notoriety that they deserve. Those athletes on the field during halftime deserve all of it as well. So most of our broadcasts as well, we have full coverage of the band, so you can be watching that as well. We don't go into the full halftime show during a football game. We make sure that we have our cameras and our microphones down there on the field because the band is very important to us.
As someone that was in the marching band all through high school, I love that you guys always make sure that you do the band festival.
It is the best, absolutely. And in fact, we joked, we had one of our guys last year, another former band member, when Elwood City was doing their blue band funk and then the tubas high stepped their way off the field. I told my cameraman down there, I said, you better keep up with them. No, I'm serious. Go, keep up. And he did. So props to him because same thing. Our former bandies know that we got to put on that good show, whether we're the ones in front of the camera or behind it.
Yep.
Yes.
All righty. Well, that looks like that'll be the final question for that round. So before we go ahead and end this episode, is there anything else that you would like to get off your chest or just talk about SportsNet in general?
I would say more than anything, we try our best to get every game on. Spring season especially becomes difficult with the playoffs, and there's so many extra rules that have to be followed come playoff time. We appreciate everybody's patience. We try everything we can to get all the games on the air. Like I mentioned earlier, we have other broadcasting groups that end up working for us, or we work for them to try to make sure we get all the games covered. But in the end, we can't always. So we apologize. We wish we could, but we do our best. And with that in mind, though, too, is especially come state playoffs, the fees to do these games are incredible. And that's one of the things I never really fully grasped until I started actually running the network here with Lawrence County, is that, the amount of money that a network has to pay to be able to broadcast games. Essentially, the WPIL or the PIAA claims that you broadcasting this game is taking away X amount of dollars in ticket sales. And so that's what they charge us. So just for an example, the first round of a state basketball playoff game, if we wanted to do Newcastle, it cost us to do audio $150 just for the first round of a game. If we wanted to do video for that game, instead of $150, it would have been $1,500. So I want to give a big shout out to all of our great sponsors with SportsNet. Can I name a few of them? Is that okay? The ones who've been here with us from the beginning, especially Pontius Insurance, Maley Chiropractic, Crane Room Grill. Those three especially were are ones that were with us right from the off and getting things up and running that first year. I think we had 6 sponsors that first year that stuck with us throughout the whole year, and those 3 have been with us from the beginning and continue to be with us. So, but all of our great sponsors have been so pivotal of making that happen. And when it comes down to it too, like, we need to try to get these games on the air. It doesn't come cheap. Our goal was to eventually get enough sponsorship that we can cover this 100, now 150 broadcasts per year, but we can't do it without our sponsors' helps and without people even calling in and saying, hey, I really want so-and-so to be broadcast next week. Can we make that happen? Absolutely, we can. We'll broadcast your name or your business name or the anonymous fan of the Union Scotties. This one has done that 4 or 5 times. So thank you to the anonymous fan of Union Scotties who has just basically randomly sends us a Venmo of like, I'm so happy I can watch because I wouldn't otherwise. So thank you. Here, take this and put it towards a future game. So we appreciate fans like that who are willing to do that and help us out, because again, it's all about doing it for the kids. But unfortunately, it comes at a ridiculously too high priced cost. So.
Yes. So if you do want to continue seeing the games, continue to support us so that we can support the athletes in
Absolutely.
the area.
Whether it's for a season long or just for the fall, or like I said, one playoff game to be able to say, hey, let's make this game happen. We're flexible. We can work with anything. We always need a little bit of help to make sure that they get done. We want to do it the right way as well.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. But before we leave, do want to just mention once again, that the golfing outing is
June 28th. It's at Castle Hills. It begins at 2:00. I will give a shout out to Laurel basketball. Sorry, Coach Locke, for stealing your dates there. There are a few people who are, I know, interested in potentially golfing in both his outing and our outing at the same time. Congratulations to anybody who is that crazy. I used to be a few years ago, but June 28th, again, if you're interested in signing up, we need whole sponsors as well. Anybody who's willing to donate a gift basket, anything like that. It's all proceeds are going to the Shawsey Scholarship Fund to be able to support the future of broadcasting and digital media for Lawrence County students. So send us an email again, lcsportsnet@lccap.org, or send us a message on any of the social media, whether it's the LCAP social media pages or the Lawrence County SportsNet pages. We'll all get it, and we'll get you all the information we need.
Nice. All right. So yes, as you heard it, please support guys as much as possible. And we want to thank you, James, for joining us in the studio today. We loved hearing your story and also hearing the story of SportsNet and how it came to fruition.
We appreciate you giving a chance to allow us to share the story, and it's been fun hearing all the stories, because I'll be fully honest too. 5-6 years ago, I didn't know what LCAP was, and the community, I think, is beginning to know more and more about it as well, and that's in a big part to everything that's been done over the last 4 or 5 years. I think obviously our SportsNet broadcasts have helped that a little bit, but I think your podcast right now showing the full history of it has been real fun to check out that full history. So if you haven't listened to the previous 14 episodes before this one, please go back and do so, because you guys have had a great job of getting, especially the originals, the OGs here of LCAP to make it happen. So please check it out, because it's great what you guys are doing here for the entire community.
Well, thank you. We work hard.
Yes, we sure do. Yes, we do. Thank you, James.
Well, in that case, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But thank you again, James, for joining us in the studio. And thank you guys for listening. And of course, we'll be back next week with another special guest.
Have a great week, everyone.
See ya.